Hey everybody, welcome to my podcast, Becoming Your Own VIP, Mind, Body, and Soul. I'm your host, Rebecca McCants, and let's get to it. So, in the morning, I like to have quiet reflection time, and I like to read a book or read the Bible and drink a nice hot glass of tea. And today, I ended up reading the Bible, and there was one particular verse that stood out to me, and it was in Proverbs 12:11, and the verse said, "He that tilleth his land shall have plenty of bread, but he that followeth after vain persons is void of understanding." Now, when it comes to the Bible, bread is actually a symbolism of the Word, God's Word. So, the reason why this kind of stood out to me was because throughout the Bible, it talks about sowing of seeds. And there's another verse in Matthew 13 that says, "The one who received the seed that fell among the thorns is the man who hears the word, but the worries of his life and the deceitfulness of wealth choke it, making it unfruitful. But the one who received the seed that fell on good soil is the man who hears the word and understands it." So this resonated with me for a lot of different reasons. One, the interesting thing was the previous night, my sister and I was talking about gardening and how it's easy to plant a flower. You know, you just put the bulb in the pot and let it grow. Well, when you're actually growing a garden, you have to till the soil. You have to bring the hardened dirt up and soften it through tilling, also allow oxygen and, break up the dirt so that the seed, once planted, can, one, receive the oxygen needed, the moisture, and then also can latch on and receive its nutrients from the earth, any roots that's already established down there, etc. So when you think of seeds, when it comes to the biblical sense, it also talks about a garden. And it's figuratively within our mind is our garden. You know, I also like to break it down to current time frames. If it's our computer, it's how we think and how we store information. And so when it comes to tilling our garden, a lot of the processes of healing is to till, to bring up the dirt, to bring up the soil. It's also to pull the weeds out from the root so that the weeds won't come back. And a lot of us have not tilled our soil, our garden, within our mind, remembering that our body is our temple, remembering this is called Become Your Own VIP, Mind, Body, and Soul. And if your soul, if your heart and your body are both on the same page of trauma, what you're watching, what you're ingesting, it all contaminates the soul. So, in order to heal, we have to till our soil and we have to put the weeds up from the root. You may not have started the trauma that had originated. And I talk about sins of the father, sins of the mother, right? But it's our responsibility to heal it, because everything after that, we created in our lives, and it's about taking responsibility. and ownership for those choices that we made when we were in reactionary states, when we were immature, and when we were childlike in our emotions and our understandings. So by going up and pulling out the root of the weeds, we're pulling up the trauma, the pain, the anxiety, the depression, and we're getting it out. It's not to live in it, but it needs to be turned up and it needs to be exposed, because I mentioned triggers during arguments, sensitive moments with our partners, our families, or stranger. And when they touch that sensitive part of you and it hurts, it's because we suppressed it. And we react reactionarily, like a volcano erupting out of that pain, that wound that's so intense, that's telling you, you need to look at me. So by tilling your soil and pulling up the root, you're now able to plant new seeds. So, okay, this happened to me, but there's a lot of things that happened. I saw it as a child who did not have an adult understanding. And I had one perspective and I took it personally. It was scary. It was something I just could not understand at all. And you had that one perspective, which now is the child's perspective. You're now emotionally stunted with that child's view. And it's not until an adult that you can actually relate to that. But we get such into a pointed finger blame game that whatever automatic pilot reactions that we make, you want to blame back all the way back to when it happened. But that's not the case. You have that moment to breathe. You have that moment to pause. And if we didn't take it, now's that time to do so. If you're listening to this podcast, it's because now that time is to do so. You've hit your wall. You've hit your lowest of lows, and you're ready to make a change. And that begins with taking ownership of your reactions to situations and forgiving yourself for not having the tools to handle it appropriately. So tilling your soil, you got to dig it up. Yes, this is where it originally happened. These are the domino effects of my life that took place after it. It caused some destruction in areas of my life I didn't want it to. Own up to your regrets. Own up to your grief, your sorrow, your bitterness, your resentment, jealousy and envy. Whatever it is, own up to it. I know for personally a lot of me, I can tell you what I learned was that literally everything I did not like about myself, I hid. I suppressed it. I repressed it. Not listening to it, not recognizing it when triggered, just being defensive, I guess you would call it, is what I used to call it. I'm defensive. You hurt my feelings. I'm reactionary. You shouldn't have said that. You knew better than to say that to me. You knew what all I've been through, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now you're pushing that blame on the person who said it. Manipulation, guilt, you're pushing off on that person instead of taking responsibility and looking at why did that hurt? Because to be truthfully honest, a lot of the things in our relationships, our actual relationships of partner, of our lover, of our companion, they weren't around our childhood days. Our friends were not around in our childhood days. Okay. And they have no idea what you've been through. So when they say something, you're to look at it as an intent that they do love me. They care for me. They're saying it because it's something that needs to be addressed, because I'm not looking at it myself. But it hurts so deeply because guess what? They're right. But the other thing is that I found those ugly characteristics that you don't like looking at in a partner is actually exactly what you're repressing in yourself. Now, I'm going to go deeper with you. After my last scenario, in a relationship, there was what I consider a spiritual awakening. And I was sheltered for a while to heal, to reflect, and to learn. And do you know the most interesting thing is? Now, usually if you jump into a relationship, you jump into the exact same relationship you just left. Because it's you that's the common denominator. It's you that are carrying those issues and attracting that into your life until you deal with it. But what if you don't have a partner? So you don't see those triggers that happen. So say, for instance, you know what? I'm tired. I'm done with relationships. I'm giving it a break. Okay. So that leads back into my scenario. Well, if you don't have a partner to mirror it out to you, the world's going to mirror it to you. So news media, conversations, strangers, headlines. But the biggest thing is your mind. When you're having anxiety out of the blue, it's still signaling to you, I am unhealed. When you have a flashback of a trauma, of a hurtful word, of whatever image that may come up, it's telling you, this image is saying I'm scared, or this image is saying I'm hurt. This image is saying I'm grieving. This image is saying I'm bitter. This image is saying I'm resentful. Your energy within, it stirs up and it signals to your body a sensation that makes you feel the anxiety, the pain, the hurt. And then in your mind, it flashes an image. Now, if you ignore all of that, you get diseases, pains in your knees, pains in your joints, heart disease, because you got pain in your heart, gallbladder issues, ulcers, because you have issues going on in your gallbladder, in your solar plexus, and your sacral, you know. There's going to be something that's going to tell you whether you avoid people or not. You could be in a cave and you're still going to be tormented. You create your own heaven or hell. And until you heal the wounds, until you till your soil, they will resurface until you're done and clear of those things. Now, for me personally, I disassociated a lot. I pushed away the minute something was going on that was threatening, that was scary, fear-based, anxiety-based. So I would have an example. No, I had a bad day at school. I know I'm going to have to go home. I know I'm going to have to tell them what just happened. I know something is going to happen. These are all the things that's going through my mind. Building up anxiety. And then you go home and sure enough, something happens. So shut down. You know, you don't want to recall that. You don't want to remember that. There's these things that are always going to flash up in your life with the partner that you've dreamed of having, with the job that you've always wanted. Just peace of mind, peace within your own body. You will not accomplish, you will not achieve until you address and heal the old wounds. tilling your soil. And by tilling your soil, and once you pluck those roots out of the weeds, now it's time to plant new seeds. You've learned, you've grown, you've expanded. Now, let's think about what you can replace and know how worthy you are, how loved you are. Remember, I talked about affirmations and affirmations to replace those hurtful things, to deal with those things. And if you can't recall, pray on those things. There is so many emotions that I had no idea why they were surfacing. And matter of fact, at this beginning of the journey period, I didn't realize this was even going to even happen. I had no idea that your body mirrored your pains, that the world, your relationships mirror your pain. I literally just had a stronger, intense emotion that I've ever had, and even in dreams. And with me not understanding it, the only thing I could do was resort to prayers. And you know, there are things that you're going to be introduced to that allows you to be led intuitively to books, to videos, and to people to heal. And you'll know it because it resonates. You just prayed on this. We're looking for instant healing, and it's not going to come that way. It's going to come by you putting in some type of work or some type of effort. One, because that was your free will. It was you who created it. It's you that now has to take responsibility and accountability. But two, do you really want it? And then three, what are you willing to sacrifice to heal? So it's kind of like saying, you know what, I'm not going to eat ice cream ever again. I just gained 20 pounds because I went on a binge. And now you lost the weight and now you feel safe enough to go back to that ice cream. What God is asking of you is once you till that soil, once you pull that root up, don't you go back. Don't look back to the things that had hurt you before. And the ice cream's not going to change. Not unless you find a good keto diet or really holistic ice cream that has as much nature as possible. And then you're responsible to the point where you're not going to overindulge. That's still going to come down to you being accountable, right? Okay. But you've changed, you've grown, you matured. You know what your triggers are. You know, what created that issue within you. And you have gained wisdom and knowledge from that experience. Tilling your soil. Planting new seeds is, okay, I'm now off ice cream. I'm now on apples. I'm now on vegetables. I'm now on fruits. I'm no longer on drugs. I'm no longer drinking, no longer hanging around those crowds. Now I read, I drink tea, I drink plenty of water. I hang out with people that are positive and really are encouraging and uplifting in my life. I develop myself in multiple ways that build me up versus tear me down. These are your seeds, your new seeds that are planted. But not only are you planting seeds within yourself, now you're planting seeds with everyone and anyone who is now observing you because they know who you were. And now you're a better person because of what you had just went through. And they themselves are going to be curious. What did you do to turn around? For me personally, again, I can't tell you enough. It was the blessing of God and prayers. And that's just the honest to goodness truth. I would not have known none of this stuff without me reaching out through prayers and being guided to information that actually helped encourage my healing. And I'm going to get into that a little bit more and more through some podcasts, but tilling your soil, planting your seeds. And when it mentioned how, listening to other people, that's really key, because you remember that word peer pressure? For a long time, we were going and following people we idolized in some way, shape, or form, to be accepted, to be liked, to be loved. And how did that go for you? So if you're seeking help, you remember also how I said hurt people, and people who love. Okay. So if they're vain, or if they lack any type of sense, especially in mind, body, and soul, when it comes to really caring for themselves and loving themselves, and we're following that person, you're not going to get any better. You're not going to go any further. It is about listening to yourself. It is about listening to your needs of your mind, your body, and soul to heal. And sometimes it means separating yourself from the people that are hurting you, from the environments that are hurting you, from the things that are hurting you. And that's not always an easy task. And that's why it's tilling the soil. And if you looked at and see how, long it takes to till soil, it takes a little bit, right? If you were out in the garden and you were pulling the weeds by your hand, it's going to take a little bit. And it's going to be hard, sweaty. It's going to be hot. There's going to be bugs flying all around you. It's not the most pleasant of tasks, but the harvest will be plentiful. It will be fruitful. And although challenges may not stop in your life, because you tilled the soil and you pulled the original wounds, it's no longer touching those emotional triggers deep within you. And if it's really that deep and you're still working on that root, at least you'll have some tools that you can deal with things so your life is not being turned upside down so easily. That you will be ready to harvest. And even during harvest time, it still takes time to harvest. It still takes you being out in the garden, plucking each and every single one of those fruits and vegetables off its vine. You still got to wash it and clean it in order to eat it and prepare it. It's just like labor. You have 9 months that you got 9 months in order to read all there is about the baby, to get the house prepared, to read the books of how to care for the baby, what name you're going to name the baby, all these things. There's some work that's going to be involved. The birthing is not going to be pleasant. But it's learning. It's your gaining wisdom. I think I would just say that Proverbs is a really good chapter to read in general. Again, I'm talking about healing. I'm talking about spirituality. And I'm talking about life changing in many ways, of which to prepare you so that you can have a better life, to become your own VIP, and that you then can go ahead and plant your seeds into others. Till the soil, plant your seeds, Create new seeds because you're worthy. You're deserving to create the life that you've dreamed of. Before, you're living the life that was not yours. It was built off of someone else's stories, someone else's pains, someone else's beliefs. And you continued the chapters from there. But it's still built off of that original story. Now, you can heal. You can stamp the end on that chapter, that book, and now create a new one for yourself. Till the soil, plant new seeds. And it takes just one step at a time. As much as we want to take gigantic steps, just take one step at a time. And I'll go into the video, podcast, kind of explaining some of the things that I did one step at a time. Because we all start somewhere. And some steps are easier than the other steps. But either way, you're making progress because you're taking those steps instead of just staying still. Sometimes that may need to be repeated a couple times. The biggest thing that I also took away from that scripture that I have read to you about, let me see if I can pull that up again real quick, is about, and I'm going to read it one more time. The one who received the seed that fell among the thorn is the man who wears or hears the word. But the worries of this life and the deceitfulness of wealth choke it, making it unfruitful. But the one who received the seed that fell on good soil is the man who hears the word and understands it. Me personally, in my journey, there's a lot of things that can become confusing when it comes to what you should do, what you shouldn't do. Not only that, the old story of our life had a lot of beliefs that the most richest person is the one who has wealth. But then also, a lot of that old story is the fears, the worries, and the limitations that hold us back from even being that wealthy person if we wanted to. Now, I've recognized through reading the Bible that God emphasizes a lot on hard work, on choosing wisely, utilizing wisdom and understanding, but also focusing on love, kindness, and service. And you having faith and belief. These are the key things. And by seeking Him, by cleansing, by you doing the steps that you need to do to till your soil and plant new seeds, is what makes you rich. I talk a lot about running and chasing. And I found that running and chasing was more of the old story, part of the seed that fell among the thorns is the man that hears the word, but the worries of this life and deceitfulness of wealth choke it. And this can go to people that go to church right here, right now. They hear the word and still live in the story of fears, worries, doubts, but then also that your true wealth is behind money. Money aids us. Money supports us. It's in relationship to us on our journey here. But your true riches is found through seeking God by humility, wisdom, understanding, kindness, love, service, being positive, letting go of your evil ways, letting go of the fears, the worries, and doubts, and pursuing God. And God is love. So it's not wealth, it's love, the pursuit of love that makes you rich. Till your soil, plant your seed, be fruitful in your harvest. This is something that resonated with me this morning, and I wanted to share this with you because it's definitely something I've been learning throughout my journey, and hoping this helps someone as they are in theirs. You guys have a blessed night, and thank you for joining me.